Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Victor again with my Ioniq 5. Today's video is the 3-month update. And just starting with the basics, I have no new issues with my Ioniq 5. The motor whine was never really an issue for me. My heating and cooling still work great. I didn't have the rollaway issue, so really, the Ioniq 5 has been rock solid and I couldn't be happier with my choice to buy it over 3 months ago. In fact, it still feels like a brand new car that I'm excited to get into and drive every single day. That's one of the best feelings, just climbing into your new car and being excited to drive it. In fact, there have always been certain routes that I really dislike driving in Philadelphia with my old gas daily driver, but now with the Ioniq 5, I don't really mind them at all. Whether it's because of the regen braking, the Regent Pedals, the super quiet, relaxing ride, or just being distracted by trying to maximize my efficiency numbers, all of that stuff just takes my mind off the fact that I'm driving a route that I dislike. And that's typically because I'm sitting in heavy traffic, or I have to keep on doing stop and goes through stop signs and stoplights, or I'm driving through a rough neighborhood. But in the Ioniq 5, none of that stuff matters anymore because I'm just enjoying my time in there. And on the flip side, while it still feels like a brand new car after 3 months, it's always felt somewhat familiar to me. So if you're coming from a car with, say, a touchscreen, or a digital gauge cluster, or adaptive cruise control and safety tech, this car is going to feel pretty familiar still. A lot of this tech has been around for many years, and it's not going to feel like a spaceship on the inside, even if it looks like that on the outside. The Hyundai designers did an excellent job of making the interior feel familiar, and I think that makes it an easier transition for many new EV owners. So if you're at all concerned that it's going to be difficult to learn and to adjust to how to drive this EV, I'd argue that it's actually one of the easier EVs to transition into just because it resembles a lot of what you would see from an internal combustion engine car. So for some people that might be a pro, for others that might be a con. Personally, I'd say I'm somewhere in the middle. I can appreciate the familiarity, but I can also enjoy futuristic styling and technology. I think I probably want my next EV to feel more like I'm driving the future on the inside versus the Ioniq 5, which looks and sounds like it's from the future on the outside, but it's much more traditional and familiar on the inside. So with that said, I think the Ioniq 5 is an excellent first EV for anyone looking to make that transition into EV life. So then what has changed over 3 months? Well, for one, my driving habits have definitely changed again. So going all the way back to the very beginning, my first month was more so about exploration and just learning and trying things about the car. Trying the different drive modes, having a blast with the instant torque and the acceleration. But then month number 2 hit, and all of a sudden I could only focus on pure efficiency. That means I was barely running the heater, I was only driving in eco mode, and I was just trying to squeeze everything I could out of every single kilowatt hour of the battery. Now, needless to say, that month was not the most fun from a driving perspective, but that's because I was stuck on the efficiency, and honestly, I still feel like it's hard not to get hyper-focused on it when it's everywhere. It's on all of the displays in multiple areas. It's hard to ignore it. But, luckily with month number 3, it's been more of a balanced month. I've been able to do much more driving in normal mode, and of course that digs into the normal versus eco driving mode debate, but I've actually been driving in normal mode primarily around the city for the past month, and it feels like efficiency-wise it's pretty close to driving in eco mode. I don't really notice a difference. I actually started trying this out after talking to some of you here in the comments, as well as looking into more information on the forums, and a lot of the numbers that I was seeing from people driving in normal mode were pretty close to what I was getting in eco mode. Now, I would much rather drive in normal mode and have close to full instant torque and full acceleration versus having to constantly switch the drive modes, even though the drive mode button is in an excellent placement and easy to get to and use. But just in city driving, sometimes you have to make a really quick maneuver, and in that case, if I have to turn the steering wheel, plus try to hit the drive mode button and then wait for the power to kick in, it just isn't enough time. So about a week into driving mostly in normal mode, I actually came across another YouTuber's video from the driver download. He owns a Kia EV6 and he's been doing some eco versus normal efficiency testing, and not surprisingly came back with pretty close numbers, which helped reinforce my own thinking that they're about the same. And it does make sense to me, because according to the manual, which the driver download states, eco mode only affects acceleration and air conditioning. So in that case, what it's doing is just dulling the acceleration pedal. So if I have good pedal control myself, then driving in eco and normal mode are essentially the same. You can still get max efficiency in normal mode as long as you're careful with the accelerator pedal. And I already know what the all-wheel drive system is capable of, because again, I understand what it's going to do. Meaning, above 50 miles per hour in both eco and normal, they're going to disengage the front motor. The only difference is that in normal mode, once I pass 50 miles an hour, if I am aggressive with the accelerator pedal, it will trigger front motor and rear motor. Whereas with eco mode, it's going to stay in rear motor only. So I did a whole video on that, and I'll link in the description below if you want to learn more. So this has been a pretty big change for me. Being able to drive in normal mode brings a lot more of that fun factor back, as I now have access to most of my instant torque and my instant acceleration without really having to worry about efficiency. Sure, my efficiency numbers probably still drop a little bit because now I'm having a little more fun, accelerating a little more aggressively from time to time, but it's close enough that I'm happy with the trade-off. So current owners, future owners, I would highly recommend trying to drive in normal mode and see if you notice any major changes to your efficiency numbers. I guarantee you it will definitely change the fun factor as it did for me. So at least personally for me, it's worth the trade-off. Another thing that I want to mention is the regen paddles. I've already done quite a few videos about those paddles. I'll link those in the description, but I just can't get over how much I enjoy using them daily. It's not for everyone, as it requires the attention level and involvement that you would probably associate with driving a manual transmission. But the experience of braking smoothly to a stop using the paddles without your feet on either pedal is just an amazing and unparalleled experience in the current EV market. So if you want driver engagement and you're coming from a manual transmission car, you need to try a Hyundai Kia Genesis EV product with regen paddles, because it's something else. The good news is that if you don't want that kind of engagement level, which I'll admit sometimes I don't want, well, we can just switch it to something else and keep it there. Problem solved. There's no right way or wrong way to drive with this regen system, just your way. You decide, and that's the best part. The last part I want to go over is how my charging habits have changed. As you may know from a previous video, I do 100% of my charging at my local Electrify America station. I don't do any level 1 charging or any level 2 charging at home. So that means I stop by my local EA station after work as needed for 30 minutes at a time, because I'm taking advantage of the free 2-year charging plan that comes with the Ioniq 5. Now, when I first bought the Ioniq 5 in February, we were seeing 30 to 40 degree Fahrenheit weather in Philadelphia. That meant I was probably charging every other day, not because I was driving 200 plus miles in 2 days, but because of the charging times. I typically was keeping my battery around 80%, and that meant that if I wanted to keep my charging sessions at 30 minutes or less, and I wanted to stay at 80% battery, then I needed to charge every other day for 30 minutes just to get it back to about 80%. But now that we're getting close to summer, I'm already seeing 65 to 75 degree Fahrenheit weather, and even though I only have 150 kilowatt chargers at my local station, it's still fast. I can go from 20% to about 85% state of charge during the 30-minute sessions with the air conditioning on and the seat ventilation on. So now that means I'm only charging once a week, or maybe once every 5 to 6 days. Just depends on how much I've had to drive for work that week. So that means once we get battery preconditioning, I'll be visiting the charging station at about the same frequency as I was with my old gas daily driver, even in the winter. Except now I'm not spending any money And I don't mind the 30-minute sessions at all because I can enjoy the peace and quiet in my Ioniq 5. I can take care of some work stuff, and I can watch some YouTube while staying nice and cool or nice and hot in the car. So it's not a bad way to spend 30 minutes once a week. So in summary, I've just really enjoyed my Ioniq 5, and I can't wait for more of you to get your hands on them. I finally saw my third Ioniq 5 out in the wild a few days ago, and I know there are more out there, as I just found out that friends of mine just bought a Lucid Blue one. And I know that plenty of viewers in the Philadelphia area are just waiting for their cars. So really, it's only a matter of time before everyone's heads will be turning in just about every direction as they see all of us driving by in our Ioniq 5s and EV6s. So definitely looking forward to that. So thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to hearing from a lot of you. What's it been like to own your Ioniq 5s or EV6s? See you guys on the next one.